morning, everyone. Welcome back. I have Sierra Smith here on our weekly chat, and I think today we're gonna kind of talk about how real estate investors make money in real estate. So, welcome back, Sierra.
Hey, thanks for having me back. I am excited to cover this. It was something I was typing into YouTube to see like what the most common searched things about real estate investors were. So this is on the list. So hopefully it's helpful.
All right. So, what is kind of maybe let's go back from the beginning then. So, before you even got into real estate investing, kind of what was your thought on it, or how did you see people maybe making money, or why did you get into real estate?
So my first impression was to hate all landlords, that they were, um, usually all cash buyers and preventing homeowner or people who wanted to buy a home from purchasing a home. I didn't want to sell to an investor when I sold a home. Like I made sure that I was selling to a family instead. That was kind of my initial impression. And then when I first considered uh, renting out our residence that we were moving from, I was like, it would cash flow positive, probably a few $100 a month. And I was like, that is not like worth it. Like I just was like, that's such a small number. Like I don't see why anyone's doing that. How are they making money? I definitely wasn't sold on the idea at all. And yeah, so that's kind of where my frame of reference was before I ever got into real estate investing.
Yeah, I don't think I had that same strong opinion about, landlords and whatnot. But for me, it was definitely not a really like a cash generating type of thing for me, realistic. That was my experience with it. Because like in Hawaii, you see a lot of properties just appreciate in value. So
Oh yeah.
that's kind of, yeah, that was my kind of thought process was, oh, you buy a property and you just wait, 10, 15 years and the value goes up. And now you either sell it and get a bigger property, or pass it down to, your children. But that was kind of my, experience with real estate. I didn't understand or even think about generating income from it or how to build wealth. It was just appreciation. That was my experience from it.
And did you view that as investing or just as, that's how real estate works?
Well, I guess in my view, I thought I was investing. I
Yeah,
thought, this is how I'm going to build value, build wealth. So from my knowledge, I guess back then, I thought I was investing. When now I look back on it, it is a form of investment, but it probably wasn't the best use of my money at the time.
that makes sense. Yeah, so I would say my mindset started to change on that when I really needed to around evaluating the cash flow aspect of it and learning about cash flow and then learning about the tax benefits of real estate and um, and really I think that one of the ways that real estate investors make money is they're just really good at managing their savings, right? So they're really moving their savings into an asset rather than making money necessarily. They just know to do that, and because the return on their savings, being in an asset, is some cash flow and some appreciation occasionally. And when I started to kind of understand that game a little bit more and then get into the tax benefits of it, that's when I really was like, oh, okay, so this is one way that I can set myself up for like retirement and having income at that point in my life rather than just like trying to make more money right now to put in my pocket.
Yeah, and I think the one, and you didn't kind of mention it, but the one thing people seem to forget about is the principal pay down, where hopefully, you're able to have someone else pay off this mortgage, or, you pay down your principal for you. And I think that's kind of that secret. In a way, it's like a built-in savings account, right?
Yeah,
Someone's paying down this principal for you. And at the same time, like you said, you're getting all these other benefits on the property.
exactly. Um, And yeah, so you have your savings kind of moved into an asset, and then it's building that additional equity on top of, what you put into it as a down payment. And then so it's kind of like, obviously there's a cost to acquiring the property, but it's kind of like, um if you were to invest that money in the stock market, it's kind of like, well, there's a cost where you might dip down for a little while, but then eventually hope over the long run, like you're exploding higher. So um, yeah, I think that leveraging that debt, by using your down payment and then adding debt at a hopefully an interest rate that is less than inflation, then you're also using that inflation to make money because you're paying off that principal with cheaper dollars over time too.
So, the big debate, kind of with the benefits of real estate, there's a lot of people that are cash flow investors, and there's others that like that appreciation play. So, for
Mhm.
you, I mean, what have you maybe learned, or has anything changed, or what do you look for in a property? Is it cash flow or appreciation?
Well, in our primary residences, I look for appreciation rather than like cash flow potential. And that's because when it comes to like a primary residence, it's more of an emotional decision. It's more of it really needs to be in the right location for your family. It really needs to, fit the lifestyle that you want. I always look for properties that are a little bit more unique or have some sort of extra, um, I don't know, something extra about them that is hard to come by. So that's definitely what I look for, because we have had success with having a primary residence and then selling it a few years later and having all of that appreciation really benefit us. But then for a rental property, I definitely just look at cash flow and kind of ignore appreciation altogether and don't really want to factor that into the equation on if I should purchase the property.
I like how you said that buying a primary residence is more of an emotional decision. And I think that's what a lot of people forget is, buying a home or real estate in general, there's a lot of emotions involved. And I see it as a realtor, people trying to purchase their home. They're willing to overpay a lot of times, or there's certain things that they want in a property. So that's why, real estate is a lot different than, for example, like the stock market where people just, invest money. And a lot of times there's not too much emotion involved. Buying a home, I mean, this is someplace, like you said, you're going to raise a family. Maybe you're looking at the school district, or what parks are in the area, or is family close by. So there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
other factors that go in than just buying a home that on paper looks good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have to, like, even for our primary residence, like, if I know that it's, if we were to turn it into a rental, I obviously would hope that it would cash flow, but even just breaking even to the point where we could cover all capex expenses, like all of the anything that would come up with it, and just having the principal pay down and then hopefully appreciation would be enough for anything that I would want to at least have spent a couple of years in myself. So that's kind of how I look at that. And I do think that, investors can look at properties that, I think for flips, it makes more sense to look at the appreciation aspect, because you're going to hopefully be targeting a family who wants to purchase that property versus an investor. So, there's different ways to evaluate all of those kinds of deals for sure. But I feel like the value add flips are the best example of kind of painting this picture of how real estate investors make money, because this is important. I feel like I want people to pay attention here, because there's a difference between earning income and making money, or creating value where it otherwise did not exist. And that is kind of a concept that I feel like is talked about, or it's kind of thrown out like, oh, you just need to go make more money or figure out how to make money. And I think a lot of times we internalize that as like, I need to pick up another job, or I need a side hustle, or I need to earn more income. And there's a difference, because if you create value where it otherwise did not exist, and like in this example of a value add on a flip, like if you create a third bedroom where there was not one before, and then suddenly you are in a different tier of your real estate market, where now the house is worth 20,000 more than it was before, just because you put up $1,000 wall, then you now there's just equity that didn't exist before. So I feel like that is a great example of like how can you I don't know, I just feel like investors and entrepreneurs in general are really good at seeing those kinds of opportunities where they can really turn $0 into suddenly like someone wants to pay you 20,000 for it. So that's just I think one of the important distinctive factors in how um, people looking at assets are trying to create value for themselves, either through equity or just other opportunities that people want to pay for.
Yeah, I love that. I think, for me, cash flow is super important. And I think that allows you to, maybe be riskier in other areas of your investment portfolio. But if you're generating cash flow from your rental properties or investments, then now you can maybe do, like you were saying, some of these value adds or waiting
Mm-hmm.
for appreciation on other properties, because you have this cash flow that can come in and help you offset maybe expenses that you're going to be generating, or maybe like you're saying, maybe a rehab or putting in that wall, it takes time. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
generating cash flow, I think that's how you alleviate some of the stress of waiting for certain properties to appreciate. And I think that was a big shift for me. Like I said, for me growing in, in Hawaii where properties just appreciated very well, changing to more of a mindset of, like you're saying, generating cash flow or generating income. I think that's how, you're going to get ahead a lot further. And I think that's why it's super important from a cash flow standpoint. And that kind of leads me to my next question on kind of what do you think of as far as getting started? Like, do you have to hit a home run on your first deal? Like, are you looking for something that's gonna, get a cash on cash return of 20%? Is that going to be the first way that you're going to get started?
That's not how we got started now. I wanted to, so the priority for me was to make sure that it was something that wasn't going to be a headache, but not necessarily something that was going to just be super lucrative. Um, I wanted the risk to be low, and I wanted there to be several exit strategies if whatever I had intended going into it wasn't going to work out. So that was kind of how I evaluated the first deal, because it is really stressful to go from, I don't know, to just to spend that much money and say like I'm going to risk it. So I think the number of exit strategies was what was actually most important to me, more so than the percentage of the cash on cash return. I wanted it to cash flow. I definitely wanted it to be plenty of cash flow positive. So I was still looking for a great deal, but I wasn't necessarily, like you're saying, looking for, the, the deal of the
Yeah.
decade in my market.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what holds up a lot of people, right? They're looking for that home run deal when, like you're saying, you want a good deal, but for me, I think you learn so much after you get that first property.
Oh yeah.
There's so much learning involved, like how to manage a property, how to be a landlord, or even how to look at your finances more. Like how are you going to tap into this equity, or how are you going to leverage this property? But it takes getting that first one to really kind of start looking at things a lot different. I think that's super important on why, getting on the property ladder is so
Mhm.
beneficial.
And that mindset shift that comes when you actually acquire, like uh it all feels a little bit, I don't know. Once you actually acquire it, then you feel like you're in the game of investing. And then the money part becomes like you're less attached to it in a emotional way, like you are like your, savings fund. Like you kind of start seeing how the money is working for you and how that game is played as far as like the tax benefits and like you said, the learning curve of just like managing properties and how, someone's paying you money and then you're paying the mortgage and what's left over and then what kind of expenses come up. And then you kind of start to really understand the pieces of the chessboard, and then I think, you always want to be looking for that home run of a deal, but I think that comes along just the more you're able to be looking for deals. And you can do that easier once you've had a property for 2 years, and you can qualify for a lot more different types of lending, and you have that experience under your belt, and then you can just be in the market more, and so then you can capitalize on when that opportunity jumps up, rather than annoy all of your realtors with looking at 100 houses.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too. Like as you get in the game, then it's easier to find home run deals because, excuse me, you know what you're looking for. You know, maybe you have certain connections to contractors, like you're saying, lenders, your property management. If you have more properties, they might give you a better deal. But once you get in the game, now finding these home run properties, I think, become a lot easier because you know what to look for and you have more resources, at your fingertips.
Yeah, and you even get like just connections with like renters, who people who want to rent a property from you. And once you have that first, like even for us, once we had the first property listed, now I have a list of 10 great applicants who would happily rent a property from me, and I know what they're willing to pay. And I mean, we even had applicants who said that they would pay 50 to $100 more a month if they could move to the front of the line, if they could um get priority, because the demand is so high, and you just don't really have an accurate feel of all of that in your market until you get that first one.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think, kind of going back to your first point, you thinking landlords, were evil or whatnot, what you said. But I think as you get into it, you realize how much you can actually be helping people, right? Like, not everyone has a great credit score. Not everyone is ready to purchase a home, and some people need a place to rent, and that's what landlords are providing. And yeah, I get it. There is landlords out there that are, um, you know, bad
Yeah, for
people.
sure. They're not
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah. But for you yourself and other investors I know, I mean, I think their heart is in the right place. I mean, of course, they're trying to build wealth and generate income, but at the same time, they're not putting out these properties that need a lot of work. They're putting out a property where somebody wants to live in.
Mhm. Yeah. And like that same for us, like it was important that we got something, like I said, that was pretty well move-in ready. I mean, we ended up with a property that was a flip from another investor, and we purchased it completely ready to go. I mean, we did fix some issues that weren't done well, but otherwise it was very nice, all new on the inside. And so the tenants are extremely happy with that, and they're excited to take care of it. And that we have a great relationship with our tenants, and um they're thankful to have us as landlords. And it's definitely a different perspective than I think what is commonly put out about the landlord tenant relationship. So even where we're at, like we were able to provide place for on the property for them to have their in-laws stay in their camper. So there's a pad on the property that we were able to set up for them to park their camper on. So when they had their baby, their in-laws were able to be there. And then we were able to orchestrate that. And I just think that a lot of times people are like, oh, my landlord would never work with me in those kinds of situations, and it's just not true.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I have a client who has a rental property and they're trying to find a tenant right now. And the first applicant was didn't meet all the qualifications. And maybe kind of a red flag that a lot of people talk about is if the applicant is, willing to pay like cash, 2 years of rent payment and pay a lot up
Mhm.
front and all these things. So initially, that was a red flag. Come to find out, there's maybe a little more backstory to it. This older gentleman, is taking care of the grandson now, and this property is in the school district that this grandson is going to. And I guess the grandfather, who now has custody, promised the son or the grandson that he's not going to take him out of that school. He's going to keep him there. And so this house was a perfect fit for him. And that's kind of why, he was willing
He
to,
felt like he was making the strongest case for himself to
yeah,
keep the
because he was
property.
selling
Yeah.
his primary residence to,
Ah.
move closer to the grandson. And so he was going to have all this money or disposable income or money at the time. So that's why he was making a very strong offer. But for
Hmm.
a lot of landlords, that kind of raises a red flag in the beginning, right? If someone's willing to pay 2 years in advance and all this cash. And so, but as the person dug deeper and said, let me talk to this applicant, so they found out a lot more. So I think they're going to move forward. But yeah, like you said, sometimes there's a story there, and that's how landlords can be super helpful, I guess, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I know a lot of landlords too, whenever they get ready to sell a property, they'll offer it to the tenant in place before they put it on the market. So, I mean, I just think that they get a bad rap for not helping people get into homes or blocking people from getting into homes when a lot of times they're actually the bridge to help people get into those residences.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually told my client, I said, hey, maybe a lease option might be a great
Yeah.
option, and that's something that you may want to present to the applicant, like because maybe their credit score is a little bit lower at this time, and they do want to stay close to this school, and a lease option might work well for both of you. So that's just something, and I think that's why I really like single family homes also, because you just have more options, more exit strategies, and a
Yeah.
bigger pool of buyers and sellers, I guess.
Yeah, me too. And I feel like for me, kind of that's where I would love to head with my portfolio is to a position where it could all transition to like me seller financing these properties out after, a certain amount of years. That way I'm not on the hook for the maintenance and repairs anymore. And, I'm providing that bridge to a lot of people to get into home ownership as well as, kind of just getting that truly passive income. So I feel like that would be an awesome way to kind of set up for the future.
Well, you said seller finance, so now there's going to be a whole bunch of people reaching out to you and asking
Well,
what your terms are and trying to get your properties now.
yeah. Well, I need to own them a little bit longer before I'm
Yeah.
willing to do that. But yeah, in the future.
Well, that's what I joked about it on Twitter or X, but my fantasy football team's for sale on seller finance if anybody wants it, because I'm getting destroyed right now. I bet my bench is doing better than my starting guy, so maybe it's just a coaching thing.
Oh,
But
well,
yeah,
that's operator error, right?
yeah. Do you know Alex Dinsmore?
No.
He's in the chats all the time for the one rental at a time. But I played him this past weekend.
Oh,
Yeah, my
gotcha.
my bench did better than my whole team. But yeah, but yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, so you know, well, I was gonna. Oh, you know what? Maybe in the comments, people can comment about, is it cash flow or appreciation? They prefer, since we were kind of touching on that, and see what people talk about. And um, for next week, maybe we can talk about, is like pets a distraction when you're trying to grow and scale or start a side hustle? So people can also comment about that, so we have some stuff to talk about. But that's something that's been on my mind right now, is are pets a distraction? And but I'm not gonna talk about the cats, because that's just gonna make me look
Oh, I'm
bad.
gonna I'm gonna make you talk about the cats when we talk about pets.
Yeah, I might not have them by next week, maybe. No, I better not. I better not say that. But yeah.
I mean, for me, the pets are a side hustle. Like doing the rover thing I've been booked every
Oh,
single weekend for the last almost 2 months in a row. So, I mean, that right now it's cash flowing better than my rental property.
oh, yeah. I never thought about that. But people just let their cats run around. I'm not a cat person. I just like my cats. I got stuck with two cats, but I never thought I'd. But yeah, they are picky, I must say.
They are something else, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. Well, yeah, this was fun again. I think this was a really good topic. I mean, I think, as you go along your journey, your mindset shifts, is constantly changing. Like I tell people, in the beginning, I had this vision of 100 property or 100 unit portfolio, and now I'm like, I don't think I want to do that. And even like the whole cash flow appreciation kind of debate, I think it just kind of depends where you are in your journey, there's no wrong way to do it. I mean, they both can be super helpful, and there's many ways to get into real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we even talked about this a little bit before, but the cash flow is really for later. It if you can use it to cover some expenses now, but I feel like most investors truly aren't spending their cash flow to cover their lifestyle at the moment. They're really either reinvesting it to grow their portfolio so they have better cash flow in the future, or they are, using it as their retirement plan. So yeah, I think that it is a big misconception that investors are out making a ton of money like in the moment that they're also able to spend right then and there.
Yeah. Well, I think it depends too, though, what your goal might be, right? Like if you love your job and you have a vision of working till 65 or whatever, then, maybe that extra cash flow, you do use it, right? To help you fund your lifestyle because, you don't have any plans to try to retire early. But
Yeah, it's more of your extra.
yeah,
Yeah.
but for us who probably have a more of a vision to retire early and stop working a job that maybe we don't want to go to anymore, it's kind
Hmm.
of postponing that cash flow to be used later or reinvest now to generate a lot more so that you can retire early and it kind of funds your lifestyle.
Yeah, it's definitely trying to set yourself up for the financial independence or the time freedom that you want.
Yeah. So that's another topic we can talk about. It was on X, is like the FIRE movement, is the retire early, um people kind of jumping off that bandwagon a little bit. Like I think it seems like people are kind of like looking at it like, maybe that's whole retiring early thing is not all it's cracked up to be.
Oh, interesting. I haven't seen those
Yeah.
conversations. I definitely have been of the mindset that like to not buy into this live retirement is like the end goal and is everything. And I always try to, reframe that as, time freedom or just the freedom to do what you want. But like the idea of retirement where you're going to do nothing is is not really that shouldn't be sought after, I guess. It's not
Yeah.
fulfilling.
That's why I actually changed my it financially independent recreational employment.
Oh,
Right?
nice.
Right?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
See?
And that's another topic I'd love to talk about is like when is rebranding appropriate for your social media? So maybe we can dig into
Yeah.
that sometime.
Yeah. I'm kind of disappointed though, because I sent you something and you didn't tell me that I was grammatical error in it, and I posted it, and then I realized I said, yeah, I sent it to Sierra and she didn't even say anything.
Oh, I didn't notice, but did anyone call you out on it, or did you just pick it up?
No, I saw it and I was like, oh man. I was like, do I want to fix it and then post it again? I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I just let it go.
Okay, here's the thing is it's actually a strategy that a lot of people use in
Hmm.
their posts is to purposely misspell something because it will get more engagement because people will be like, hey, you have a typo. And so it gets more comments sometimes and people do this on purpose. And so I've stopped like thinking much of it because I'm like, oh, people are using it as a strategy to get engagement.
You're right. Maybe I should make a corrected version and say and point it out, right? And
Yeah,
then say,
yeah. And
look.
then you just recycle your views. There you go. You get double it right there.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. That was kind of like, man, she didn't even correct it, man. But all right. Well, yeah, we'll do this next week again and hopefully we get some comment. We've been getting a lot of comments recently. People were commenting about me drinking like 4 monsters a day. But
Yeah, and people,
yeah.
I had most of the commenters on my side on being social on the airplane. So your earbuds in, don't talk to them is the outlier.
Did I say that?
Yeah, I
Oh.
thought you did.
No, I
Maybe it
said
was
I, I
before the
I
call
think I
though.
said some people are like that.
Oh, okay. Are
Yeah.
you social on the airplane?
Um, I guess, but usually I have my son or someone next to me.
Yeah, you're not
But
traveling alone.
yeah, but I think now I would be. I think before, I don't think people would want to hear about my gym equipment and fantasy football team. But so I think now I have more interesting things to talk about. So yeah, but
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure something out for next week. This is always fun. We, like I said, next time we'll just record from the beginning because we talked about half an hour before we even started.
Yeah, we had some good stuff in there.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this again.
Yeah, thanks for having me
Okay.
on.
Bye.
Bye.